Somewhere in Finland, a group of engineers walked into a meeting and told their bosses the company was going to die. They were specific. They named the problem. They even named the solution. A piece of software called Android. Free, available, already winning. They were listened to politely, and then nothing happened. Here's what makes that strange. This wasn't a struggling company grasping for excuses. In that same window, Nokia was the most successful phone maker on Earth. 2 out of every 5 phones sold anywhere on the planet. The best engineers, the best supply chain, billions in profit. They had the money, they had the talent, they had the warning, in writing from their own people. So why couldn't they move? 6 years later, Nokia sold its entire phone business for scraps. This is the story of a company that saw exactly what was coming and stood perfectly still. Nokia started in 1865 as a paper mill on a riverbank in Finland. For over a century, it made rubber boots, cables, tires, whatever paid. Then, in the 1990s, it made a bet on mobile phones, and the bet paid off on a scale almost no company in history has matched. You remember the phones, the indestructible ones, the one with the little snake game. Nokia's 1100 became the best-selling phone of all time, 250 million units. Their slogan was 2 words, connecting people. And for a while it was just true. By the year 2000, Nokia was worth around $250 billion, the single most valuable company in all of Europe. And they kept climbing. 2007 was their best year ever. 437 million phones sold, 51 billion euros in revenue, 7 billion in profit. 40% of every phone on the planet. Which raises a question that sounds impossible. How does a company have the best year in its history in the exact same year its death sentence was handed down? In January 2007, in San Francisco, a different company put a slab of glass on a stage. No keyboard, no buttons, a battery that barely lasted a day. Inside Nokia, the reaction wasn't panic. It was a shrug. Their engineers looked at the iPhone and saw a fragile, impractical toy that couldn't survive a drop and couldn't get through a workday. And on the things Nokia measured, durability, battery, signal, they were right. It was a bad phone. But the iPhone wasn't really a phone. It was a pocket computer that happened to make calls. A screen you could turn into anything with software. And that was the one race Nokia wasn't built to win. Their software, Symbian, was old, clunky, built for buttons, not for touch. And this is where we come back to that meeting. Because Nokia's own engineers knew. They warned management Symbian was a dead end. Some begged the company to jump to Android. They were ignored. So the question isn't whether Nokia saw it. They saw it earlier and more clearly than almost anyone. The question is what happens inside a company that makes seeing the truth and acting on it 2 completely different things. Nokia was a giant by then, a sprawling bureaucracy where bad news didn't travel upward, and no one wanted to be the person who killed the software that still ran on hundreds of millions of profitable phones. So, they defended it for years, while the ground moved under them. Once the slide started, it was faster than anyone imagined. Apps changed everything. A phone was now only as good as the software people could build for it, and developers built for iPhone and Android. Nokia's app store was a ghost town. Every year its share dropped, and every year management promised the next Symbian update would fix it. It never did. In 2010, Nokia brought in a new CEO from outside, a former Microsoft executive named Stephen Alop. A few months in, he wrote a memo to his own staff. He compared Nokia to a man standing on a burning oil platform, forced to jump into freezing water or die in the flames. He was trying to shock the company awake. Instead, it may have poured gasoline on the fire. The memo leaked. Now the whole world knew Nokia thought its own products were dying, so customers stopped buying them immediately. And the jump Elop chose was an Android, the platform that was winning. It was Windows Phone, his old company's system. Nokia bet its survival on it. Almost nobody bought them. Their share of smartphones fell from around 50% to 3%. In September 2013, it was over. Microsoft bought Nokia's phone business, the empire that once owned nearly half the planet's phones, for about $7 billion, roughly 98% below what Nokia had been worth at its peak. The CEO, who'd come from Microsoft, went back to Microsoft with a payout worth tens of millions. And that should be the end of it. Except Nokia's story has one more turn. And it's the part that makes this collapse different from every other one. The easy answer is that Nokia failed to see the iPhone coming. But you already know that's not what happened. Nokia saw it. Its engineers saw it early, named the problem out loud, and pointed at the exit. Nokia had the brand, the money, the talent, and the warning. It had everything it needed to survive, except the willingness to kill the thing that was still making it rich. And that's the pattern, isn't it? Blockbuster saw it, Kodak saw it, Nokia saw it. None of them were blind. All of them were trapped. Too big, too profitable, too afraid to burn down a business that still worked, until the choice was taken away from them. The trend is never the killer. The killer is a company that can see the future clearly and still can't make itself move. But here's Nokia's turn, because Nokia, the company, didn't die. It quietly retreated to a business you never see. The equipment inside the cell towers that carry your calls. No logo in your hand, no glory, just survival. Nokia lost the empire everyone could see, and lived by, disappearing into the one they couldn't. Sometimes the only way to survive the wreck is to stop being who you were. Every empire eventually wrecks. The lucky few get to choose what they become on the other side. If this hit, subscribe. Next week, the kings of the keyboard, who were certain the touchscreen was a fad. BlackBerry.